Hello everyone in cyber world, welcome back to another video. I'm Richard.
And I'm Jennifer, and this is our channel we call Poor Man's DIY. Today we're going to start a video series of testing, reviewing, and how to use the Langer B1 40-watt laser.
Once again, Langer has done us the honor of allowing us to review one of their newer products. We are going to be reviewing the B1 40-watt laser. It's going to be done a little bit different because I'm also going to be doing kind of a laser engraving cutting 101 to help people understand how to use the lasers. We'll be doing installation and show how you set up this particular laser, and then actual use and some tips on how to use the lasers. And from them, we're going to be doing a whole series of different products from Langer that go along with the B1.
This week's video is very technical, so I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Poor Man.
I am not going to spend a lot of time going over each piece, so here's a quick view of the contents that came in the B1's box.
In all honesty, I'm going to tell you that I already partially installed the pieces together, but I ran into a bunch of problems and I realized that it was going to be kind of difficult to install this. Not that the instructions are bad, but there's some places on there that makes it really tough to get your fingers into. So I was thinking about maybe showing a different way that I would do some things before the full assembly, and I'll explain that a little bit more, but I'm going to give you some close-ups so that you can understand. Again, the instructions are fine. I just didn't quite grasp what was going on, but as I started working it out, I said, I get it. Now I understand the instructions a little bit better. So let's go ahead and start. And to begin, you're going to have the x-axis here. You're going to be connecting the sides to this. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. So the instructions actually were really good. I just got myself confused, probably because I can't see very well, but what I realized was that this is turned upside down when doing the installation. And these will then go into these tracks here, are going to be going into the grooves here where there's wheels that are going to be rolling on top, kind of like a roller coaster. The roller coaster car that grips onto the rail, it's going to just slide in there. So make sure that this is turned upside down first. All right. And this is, the rail also is going to be turned upside down, and all we're going to do here is slide it in. Okay. Now, if you can see, the wheels here are going to go into this track here. That's all it is. And now it can slide, and it's actually not tight, but it's not loose. It holds onto it perfectly. Again, the same concept as a roller coaster car. We're going to do the same thing for the opposite side, just by simply fitting in there and rolling it back and forth. For the next step, we're going to be connecting what we just assembled here with the sides and the x-axis onto the front and the back. Now, we're going to have to flip this back over and slide those things in here. The instructions show you to tighten everything up. What I'm going to recommend here is all we're going to do is connect the fronts, and we're going to tighten those onto the side rails. But I'm not going to install this yet, and I'll explain why after we do this. So first of all, let's go ahead and flip this back over as such. And let me show you how we're going to connect this here. And what we're going to do here is just simply slide this into here. There's a couple holes. There's a hole right here on the top. And what that's going to do is line up perfectly, and we're going to use the screws to place in here to hold that in place. We're going to do the same thing for both sides. Again, we're not going to connect the other side, just the front for now. At this point, we're now supposed to install this onto the back side. And we're not going to do that, and I'm going to explain why, but to do that, we're going to go ahead and flip this over. Okay, so one of the next steps that we're going to be doing is installing the track. Okay, and in order to do this, okay, this track is actually going to be going through here, and if you can see inside, there's where it attaches to, and that's what's going to be spinning and holding on to the track, and it's going to go all the way across the rail on both sides. And the instructions do tell you that what you want to do is you want to make a little loop, and you want to get it in there, and you want to hook it around. What we're supposed to be doing is we're supposed to take this, and let's see if we can get a good close-up on there. All right, this has to go into the grooves there. The idea is you're just supposed to fit this in there and then go around it, and that's what's going to grip this and eventually turn it. Now, easy enough right now that I just did that. However, once you install that, it gets real tough to try and get in there. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to actually put the strap on first, then I'm going to go ahead and install it so that I don't have to fight with it. It'll be much easier that way. And I'm going to do that on both sides because this one also has the grooves there that has to be attached. Okay, now with that there, we're going to be attaching it on there and screw it on just as we did on the front panel. However, there's one more thing that I want to show you. When I had the side rail, this piece was actually taped inside here to keep it in place. The tape has to be removed. Ultimately, this cable here is going to be plugging in to this slot right there, much later on going on down the line. Now, if I were to just slide this on as such, it's going to block this wire so that I can't get it to come over here. So the instructions do tell you that you need to put it into a groove, and I couldn't figure out what the groove was, but we're going to put it in here first. Okay. That will allow it to have enough room. It'll allow this to go all the way in without getting in the way, and then we can plug this in at a later step. All right, now we can go ahead and just slide this on. Now we're going to go ahead and attach the screws as if we were following the instructions from the very beginning, and we're just going to tighten up. The only difference right now is we're doing this upside down. And flip this back over right side up. And now that we have the back and the front installed on this, we're going to go ahead and turn this back over as such. All right, now I showed you earlier that the track here goes inside. Now what this is actually going to go is it's going to connect into this box, but it also has to go all the way around, come back up, and then these are going to hook onto this box. It never fails. Footage gets messed up and don't realize until you edit, so I'm going to have to reshoot this, but let me show you this track. This may be actually, there may be some things that are a bit easier to see here. Let's go ahead, and this is what the track looks on the inside. Now, what I showed you earlier is how the track goes on the inside here. Now, and it connects to this box. And you'll see that the track itself has a little metal piece that slides in here, locks in, it goes all the way around the front, and it comes through this part here, and then it goes back to the box. Now this part here has a little bolt, and what this is loosen this up first. The track will be able to fit in here easily. It hooks in there. Once it's hooked in, then you can tighten this back up so that it's not too tight, not too loose, kind of along on these lines. Now we'll go back to the original footage and hopefully this will make some sense. If you notice here, there's some cutouts here, and I wondered why this had metal ones. I've never had something like that before, but it's very clever. This is just going to simply go in here, and the metal clamp here is so big that it's not going to pull out. So now that is in there. We take the opposite side and pull it in there. Now what I'm going to do is tighten this up so that there's a little more tension here. And we'll do so over here. As I mentioned earlier, now that we have that one cable, it's now sticking through here enough that it can actually go ahead and clip in. There's only one way for this to actually go in. If you try forcing it the other way, it's not going to work. Line that up properly and push it in, and that's done. We're now going to flip this over, and the next thing we're going to get to install is the laser module itself. All right. Okay. All right, this is for beginner level. If you're real familiar with lasers, you can go ahead and forget this right now. The way the lasers actually work is it goes off a Y-axis and an X-axis. That's all it is. Technically, the laser's either moving left, right, up, or down. But when you do it in a combination of this, it can make it look like you are actually cutting out a circle. So all we're doing everything though is it's all based on an X and Y axis. This is the X axis, and we're going to be installing the laser module onto that. The bottom of here has a little hole here, which is actually going to be where the air assist is pumping air through. We're going to get into a better explanation of that, but for now, all we're going to do is connect that. We have grooves that fit in here. There's only one way to do it. Right now, the laser module just sits here and floats freely, and unfortunately it falls to the bottom. We need to set up something so that we can be held in a particular location, and we're going to do that with these screws that are provided. And you will be able to see, maybe if I take this out you can see a little bit better. You have some holes over here, and this is where you're going to put those screws in. Let's see, I'm going to put 2 in. One's supposed to be a spare, and the other is just can move to any one of these. And I'm going to I'll tell you why I'm going to use both of these. Okay. All right. Now when the laser goes to cut, this has to be a specific height from the item that you're going to be cut. If you're going to cut a thick piece of wood, this has to come up. If it's something that's real thin, it has to go down. If you actually mount this on top of something, you may need the laser to go down really far so that it can get to whatever that you're engraving if you're not doing it on a flat surface like this. All right, now, in order to hold it in place though, you put these grooves through there, and all this is going to do is use this to tighten it. Okay. And by tightening it, as you can see, it now holds its place at the level you want to. The reason I have 2 of these is there may be a time where you need this to be really high up, in which case this bottom screw is no longer effective. So technically you could take it out and put it on one of the other holes and do it. But since one of these screws is already considered to be a spare, I just keep one on a little bit higher level so that I can tighten it up high up if I need to. I loosen it and I can use the bottom one to tighten there. All right, the next thing we're going to be installing is referred to as a limit switch. Can we see this? All right. The limit switch has a little button here. In essence, what we're going to be doing is installing here so that when the laser is moving, it will not go beyond this point. If it does, it presses the button and it's an automatic stop. So think of it as like a kill switch. We're going to have one here on this axis, and then we'll be putting one on the side so that it doesn't go too far forward either. So one by one, need to install these. We're going to be using the tiny little screws going through the switch itself and into these little holes here. One. Now we start connecting the cables. There's a cable that's already connected here. There's 3 different wires that can connect to it. One is the black wire that connects to the kill switch there. It does say Y and it matches to the Y that we installed. Just plug that in. like so. And we have a smaller connection right here. And that's going to plug in right there. And the larger connection. Oops. We need to do that again. All right, let's get that snapped in there. Okay. All right, now we've got a long cable here that was connected to the side frame there. These are going to go in here to connect up to the module itself. And if you notice, there's a tiny groove, 2 grooves over there, and this has 2 grooves. If you try and put it in the other way, it's not going to fit, so there's only one way for this to go in, as such. Okay, and the same applies over here, only one way for it to go in. Okay. And we can strap this down with the Velcro. And last but not least, we have two cables coming out of this. We've got 2 connections to make. So let's go ahead and do the big one first. Here. And then the kill switch. Of course, it's called a limit switch, but the kill switch sounded more understandable. Okay, now you don't want to strap this down too tight. The idea is just so that it doesn't fall down and get in the way when it's moving. If you strap it down too tight, it may not go all the way to one side or the other, and so this is just to keep it from falling in. A lot of this has been connected. The laser itself is pretty much ready to go, but there's another feature that I think is an absolute must, and it actually comes with it, and that is what's referred to as the air assist. We'll get into a little more detail later, but simply put, if you think about what a laser does, a laser is nothing more than a pinpoint fire that burns through wood. When you burn through wood, what happens? It creates ash, and tiny particles are going to be flying around. Probably tiny particles that you can't see to the eye. You'll be able to smell it when things are burning. Now, those particles are going to be so tiny that they're going to be blowing around inside here, and where the lasers come in. The laser is going to bounce off of those tiny particles, and it's going to be spreading out in all the directions. You want a clean laser beam so that you get a clean cut. What the air assist does is it sends air from here, and this is no different than fish tank air pumps. So this will push air through a tube. We're going to run this tube up here and down here into here, and the air is going to blow out the same time the laser is going. It'll keep the laser clean. Makes a huge difference. I'm going to do some tests and show you how it works and compared to real life things and the difference between a clean line and not. All right, so the installation is pretty simple. We're just going to put this, it's going to be on the side here, and we're going to be running a hose, and this too, we're just going to go through this Velcro. It's going to go down in here and connect into the connector here. Very, very simple, as such, and push it in, and it locks. To actually, if you ever have to remove this, this hose for any reason, if you push down on this, I think it's blue, on this blue thing, then it'll pop out. But once you push it in, if you just try and pull it by itself, it's locked. And now we can go ahead and add this into the Velcro as well for the same reason as this other cable. We don't want it floating around and getting caught inside the laser or getting jammed when the x-axis is moving. So that's just to get out of the way. Next, we're going to be connecting this to the air assist. Very simple. There's just one outlet for it, and we're just going to slide that on there, and that's it. Okay. All right. Next, this doesn't go into a power outlet. It's actually going to plug into the machine itself. What this does is whenever you turn on the machine, if you have it set to use the air assist is going to come on automatically. If you can take a close look here, you're going to see in here there's 2 prods that are coming out there, and this has 2 holes that's going to go in there. Now, it just doesn't go in any way, there is a little indentation on here. That indentation matches a bump on the inside there. Should you try to match these female jacks into the male jacks there incorrectly, it won't go in. If you get that groove to match the groove on the top, that is how it's going to go in. And screw this on to tighten it up. And your air assist is ready to go. Okay, only one last thing to plug in for now, and that is the power supply, which goes in here. Before we get into this, I want to show you this system has a few safety features. We did take a look at the limit switch here. I called it a kill switch, sorry. But the limit switch, that'll prevent things from going on any further. It's going to cause it to stop so the laser module doesn't run into the bar here. All right. One of the other features here is this. Now, this here is probably closer to what a real kill switch is. In the event that you're using your laser and something happens, whatever, fire or anything, something stuck, didn't work, you just simply push this down and it'll shut off the system. And if you notice, just by pushing it down, it stays down. This automatically locks by pushing it down. In order to free it up, once you've put out the fire or whatever it is that's going wrong, all you have to do is turn it and it pops back up so that it can be used. But just a simple click and it shuts it off, which is an awesome feature. Okay, the other thing, all right, this is a must-have with lasers, and that is a key, a locking system. All right, so with this, what you'll be able to do is control the keys, and so without the key being turned on, the machine will not turn on. Why do you have this? Well, perfectly for safety reasons. If you have children, for example, if you remove this key, they can hit the power all they want to and it's not going to come on. Okay, a couple other things. You can see here, if you can see this, you can use a USB and plug this directly into a computer. It does also take a memory card, as well as being able to connect it with an RJ45 connection. That gives you several different options on how to control the machine. All right, not all machines are going to come with this. Should you purchase a laser that does not have it, I would highly recommend it. And what that is referred to as a honeycomb, okay? The honeycomb here has as it says, it has a honeycomb and it has a metal sheet on the backing. All right, imagine you're cutting a piece of wood such as this, and you want to do it on your workbench. You could place this on here, have it set up, get it so that it's going to start cutting into the wood. What do you think is going to happen? Well, the laser doesn't know to stop as soon as it cuts through the wood. It just goes as far as it possibly can. So what that's going to do is it's going to burn right into your desktop, your workbench here. Now, if your workbench is metal, that's not as bad. What's going to happen still is the laser is going to penetrate this wood after it cuts through it, and what happens, the light of the laser is now going to bounce back up from the metal. What's that going to do? Well, the laser is still active, so in essence what it's going to do is it's going to burn the bottom side of your wood or anything else that you happen to be cutting. So what exactly does the honeycomb do? The honeycomb is approximately, I would say about 3/4 inch thick. We're going to place this underneath here. And this will be used for the surface to do your cutting. It's not going to affect anything as far as engraving. If you don't have anything if you're only engraving, you don't have to worry because you're not cutting all the way through the wood, so it's not going to hurt your workbench. But if you're actually cutting through something where the laser is going to go all the way through, this honeycomb is just thin pieces of metal that is just holding it up. And what it does is it allows the laser beam to go through it, penetrate through this. Now, that 3/4 inch space that it has because of the height of the thickness of this, the laser beam is going to go down, it's going to reflect off that metal, and it's going to come back up. But by that time it reflects back up because of the thickness of this, the laser beam itself is going to dissipate and it's not going to burn the back as much. You still could get some burning on there, but this protects your bench and it gives you a much cleaner cut, and you don't have to worry about the backside getting scorched. If the backside is burning, you could actually ruin the bottom, the back, and it might start burning all the way through with different lines that weren't even planned. So this is an absolute must. I highly recommend it. This particular machine came with the air assist, but if you purchase a laser that does not have an air assist, this too is a must. Now, one thing on this one here, I shouldn't say on this one here, all lasers have the same thing. The manufacturers determine the proper height it is from the laser head to the cutting surface. Now you can't just randomly, well I guess you can, you can randomly set this height to whatever you feel like and you turn on your laser. It may or may not burn. The laser beam comes down and just like a flashlight, it comes down nice and straight, but it will expand out. All right, if you're too high up, what's going to happen is the laser beam is going to come out and it's going to give you a thick cut. If it's a perfect straight line before it starts spanning out, that's going to be the ideal length.
Maybe this will help you to understand a little better. You can use a wide spread from your hose to clean the sidewalk and it will clean somewhat. Or you can make a tight stream. But even a tight stream from a distance is not going to be as effective as when you are close up.
Now, how do you determine that ideal length? The longer has, come here, let's take a look. Well, they use a little kickstand right here on the side that just flips down. You flip it down and you let it drop onto the surface. Once you drop it onto that surface, you tighten this up and then you need to move that kickstand back up. Now you have the perfect height that is predetermined by the manufacturer that's going to give you the best, cleanest cut and the distance for that. So I'm going to run a test on the light and the dark with the exact same settings and show you that there could be a difference on there. So you don't want to assume that once you know what your engraving settings are, that's what it's going to be all the time, because that's not the case. And what the tests are going to do is it's going to engrave squares. And it's going to be based on the settings. You can have the squares at 5% and then 10%, then 15% and 20%, all the way up to 100% if you want to. You can have the speed of the laser module here, how fast it's going to move. So if you have this set for a slow setting of, let's say, 100 millimeters per minute, that means in 1 minute time, it's only going to travel 1 millimeter, which means this thing is going to travel like a tiny turtle. Or you can go set it to as high as, let's say, 30,000, and that will be moving across here really quickly. The faster it does, obviously, the laser's not going to be sitting on the wood as long, so it will burn differently. You're going to find that certain settings, surprisingly, are going to look better than others. So we're going to go ahead, as I said, do a test on here, show you what it looks like. We're going to perform the exact same test on a darker piece of wood and see how that looks. I've finished some more tests. As you can see, I was only going to do one, but this is absolute proof of why you need to run these tests. Why do I say that? I was being a little cocky thinking, I'm pretty good with lasers. I've been using them for a long time. I've used all different types, and I have a pretty good understanding of what to expect for engraving. So I had some settings that I thought for sure I was going to get something really good. And I realized after the first run that I had some settings that were I got a typo, and it ended up, you can see here, let me see if we get a close up. See, on this one here on the bottom row, it actually didn't just engrave, it burnt all the way through. That was because of a typo, as I mentioned, and the same thing for here, it burned all the way through. So I tried the second one thinking, okay, I got this, and it still didn't come out as well as I expected. And I think that, I know the reason for this is because this particular machine is much more powerful than the other similar machines that I had, and I didn't take that into consideration. And so I was using way too much power that I needed for engraving. So anyhow, what you get from here, let's see if we can get this. Again, we're going to go ahead and look at these two here. These are the most current ones. Hopefully this will focus on here. And although these are the exact same settings, they don't appear the same simply because the wood is different. How it burns is different. So that's why I said earlier that you really want to do tests on this one here. All right, so one thing to take a look at. Let's see. If you can see here on this one, the second from the bottom row, you're going to notice that the color of it is quite light. And you would think that if you're burning it at a slow speed and a high power, that it's just going to turn it into charcoal and make it dark, but it made it lighter. The reason for this is because I used plywood, and what it's done is it's burned its way through the first level, its layer, it's made it to another layer of the plywood, and the second layer was lighter, and so the light part is what's showing out as opposed to darker. So if you were going to engrave and use those settings, everything's going to come out really light, and you're not going to really see a difference between the wood itself and the engraving. So you are probably going to want to pick to something that when it does engrave, it's going to be a little darker. So this now tells you, based on this test, what speed and what power level would work best for an engraving based on your liking. You know, some people may like engravings to come out darker, some may come out lighter. And you can also see that those same settings may not be the same for here. The same thing here, it did go in on the higher power levels. It went in quite deep into the wood. That may be something you should want, but again, this just gives you the test, and there's nothing that says which one's going to be better. If you like the lighter kind of engraving, that's fine. This is critical that you should always do this. As I said, even someone like me that I thought I knew what I was doing, I could get things wrong. All right, so that's one test. Now we're gonna go ahead and get into doing some tests for actual cuttings. It's gotten to be really late. I don't wanna do this, so we're gonna have to cut for now, and we're gonna finish this up tomorrow. So we will come back in tomorrow and we're back. Okay. Now let's go ahead and discuss exactly some of the capabilities and some of the limitations of a diode laser. I'm not going to get into the full details and the scientific explanations of the difference of the diodes and whatnot for a couple reasons. One, it could get too complex. I don't want to bore everybody. And two, I'm not quite sure I fully understand it myself. What I do know is that different types of lasers emit a different color beam. Different color beams have different capabilities. So the diode laser, for one, it has some limitations where it can't cut or etch clear things. For example, I cannot cut white acrylic, and the same thing, it doesn't actually etch glass. The other thing about the lasers to talk about, this is also another safety feature. Okay, each laser is going to be using a specific what is an amplification? There's a different readings, and for each one of the lasers, you need to make sure that you read up on that. And although this came with it, so I'm assuming that the company they know exactly what type of laser it is, and they have the appropriate goggles here, safety goggles, to protect your eyes from it. You can't just go out there on Google and find the cheapest thing you want, or if you're looking for the specific color to match this, and assume that that's going to work. These glasses themselves have specifications that can handle certain light frequencies, and this is tuned for protection against this specific one. This might not work for a different type of laser. So make sure that you check into that, and also anytime that you're running the laser, safety, 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 always, always, always put these on. Now we're going to go ahead and show you a little bit of a testing and see the difference. I'm actually going to turn on the air assist, and I'm going to engrave something, and then I'm going to move over the wood and engrave the same thing without the air assist and show you the difference of, well, I guess the best way to do it is actually show you it rather than talk about it. I used a little bit of a lighter wood to go over this to show you the difference. Now, if you take a look, you can see it's the same image on both sides. However, if you look closer on this side here, all along the lines, there is some slight scorching. This is caused without the air assist. So the particles that are flying around inside here, where the laser's at, while it's running, causes the particle beam to kind of bounce around, and so some of the beam is getting to the side and burning that without burning it all the way through, while this one here is much cleaner. You're still going to see some scorching on occasion. It's not going to be perfect. If you're using an air assist and you get more and more scorching, and you can't figure out why because the air assist is on, you're actually going to need to go inside here and clean the laser itself, and we might get into that in another video to show you. But those same particles that fly around inside, they will also start buildup, and that buildup gets in the way of the laser, and so you do need to clean that on a regular basis as well.
Lastly, I wanted to try a quick test just to see how powerful this is and to see if this laser can cut through 1/2 inch thick wood.
I'll be darned. There we go. All right. That's actually charged, so that's probably the settings are off there. But the fact is, it just cut through this, and I wasn't sure that was going to be able to. The other lasers that I have are 10 watt and 20 watt are unable to do that. That's pretty darn impressive. That's good to know. So for today, that's all that we're going to be going over with. This is kind of an introduction to people to show exactly how laser work, what type of equipment's available, and at the same time, we were doing all that testing on this new longer B1 40 watt laser that we were provided. So for now, I am, as always, Longer has not gone wrong with any products that they've sent to me. Everything is solid. This thing moves really well. Now, one other thing, in addition to thanking Longer for all of that they have sent us, Longer is aware of what we do for Christmas every year. We make ornaments that we put out for the neighbors, and they offered to provide us with supplies so that we can use their equipment and make these ornaments to hand out for free. I'm not sure we're going to be able to use the things that they would like to send to me, but I am so humbled, and I'm still going to be using their equipment to see what kind of stuff so that we can make for our neighbors. Hopefully it comes out really nice. I've got some ideas on that one. So look forward to some additional videos to not only with this here, but we're going to start working on our Christmas preparation, and we'll show you some ideas on what you too can do for prepping for your Christmas, and maybe some crafting that you can do for that.